All right, so what is Next Level Finish all about? Next Level Finish is all about protecting your rod, okay? Your investment, your time, your money. If you're in the business of selling custom rods, the worst thing that can happen is your epoxy turns yellow over time in the hands of a customer, right? You want to keep your rod looking pure. Keep your whites whiter, your brights brighter. It's not just a cliche saying, it's true, right? So the old adage of all epoxy yellowing over time may still remain true, it may not, but I can assure you that Next Level Finish stays clearer longer. That was the criteria when we started developing this finish. I've been looking for a finish to call our own for about 12 years. It's taken that long, I almost gave up on it until I came across a formula, it's Formulators, about 3 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. We started testing a new formula, made a few tweaks, got in the hands of Doc Ski, Mark Kraus, a couple of really high-end rod builders that just gave us amazing positive feedback. We made a few tweaks, and for the last 2 years, we've been using the same formula. That formula has been tested by third parties in UV chambers. It's been cooked in ovens. It's been obviously just put in daily use. It's been kept in cups outside my office. It's been kept on white blanks in the sun. It's no smoke and mirrors. Next Level Rod Finish truly does stay brighter longer. All right, that was the criteria. We weren't going to come out with a finish that was just another finish. It had to be a better finish. That's why it took 12 years and we almost give up on it, because it's true. It's very hard to do. It's expensive to a degree. UV inhibitors aren't cheap, but ultimately we've done an amazing job. Our formulators, our chemists, and we've got our margins pretty tight to make sure it's very affordable for you to bring you a premium finish. Now what I'm gonna do right here, I'm gonna lay down some thread. I'm gonna show you how I mix Next Level Finish. I'm also gonna go into some marbling and show you how you marble with Next Level Finish. You can use it as a lure coating. It's just an amazing protection for your rod, for your thread. These are both parts A and B. Okay, this batch right here is about 6 months old. This is part A and part B. They're almost as clear as water, okay? Now when you mix them, you'll see a little bit of cloudiness, like any two-part epoxy. That cloudiness goes away once you mix it thoroughly. Bubble release is amazing, okay? That was a huge criteria for all of our rod builders. The leveling properties are second to none, hence the name Next Level. That came about from Doc Ski Facebooking me. His face was all lit up, super excited because of how well it leveled. There was not a name on this finish until we were done formulating it, testing it. Then we kicked around, okay, what name do we want? And Doc's excitement in explaining the leveling properties is what stuck to me. So Next Level Finish was born through that process as far as the name goes. So let's mix them and finish. Guys, don't take my word for it. At any point in time, test it, all right? Rod building finish is relatively cheap. It is the cheapest component of your rod. At the end of the day, it's the most important part. What goes on your threads stays on that rod and protects that rod, or maybe it doesn't, for years to come. There's nothing worse than putting time into beautiful thread work on a beautiful blank, and all of a sudden, 6 months on the road, a year on the road, it turns yellow, okay? Not okay in my book, not okay. We have tested this extensively, and I assure you, it will stay clearer longer than the rest. At some point, will it yellow? Maybe, but our tests in UV chambers show that it lasts a lot longer than all the other ones out there. Okay, that's all we can ask for. So let's mix them up and see what it's all about. You can mix with syringes, you can eyeball it in a graduated cup. Ultimately, I use syringes. Typically, we'll mix at least 3 cc's of each. You can use less, you can use more. It's just kind of my go-to. Oftentimes, I'll use 5. Just depends on the size of the rod, how much finish I'm gonna need. Actually, because we're gonna marble, I'm gonna go ahead and use some more finish. Guys, if you draw and you get bubbles in there, no big deal. You'll see when I mix it up, there will be plenty of bubbles. The least of my worries. The bubble release from Next Level Epoxy is just awesome. Very easy. I'm gonna mix 9 cc's of each because we're going to make 4 different colors while we're marbling. And then we're also going to do a regular wrap finish that we're not gonna marble. So these sample kits are super clear as far as the bottles go. In our production bottles that are sold, these are the bottles that you'll receive. Labeling, instructions, QR code to this video here that you're watching now. And the reason the bottles aren't as clear is because the plastic that is the most stable isn't clear by nature. These sample bottles, you know, we use them pretty quick. It's fine, but to make sure that your shelf life and the bottle itself doesn't degrade, we use a higher grade bottle for what gets sold to you through the shop. Just to explain why they look a little bit different. All right, so you'll notice that when you get your Next Level, it is a true high build finish. With that, you can thin it with a little bit of heat if you'd like, or a few drops of acetone. I personally just mix it a little bit with a little bit of heat, and that thins out enough for me. See those bubbles in there? Because I drew it weird. Not even worried about it. I'll get the bubbles out, the big ones out, just to make sure that I draw the right amount of finish. But ultimately, if you know Doc Ski, and some of the other guys out there, they whip their finish up to a froth as opposed to worrying about bubbles. And I've gotten to where I'm pretty good with that too. I don't mind it. Mentally, it kind of still throws me for a loop. Like, why would you ever mix so much bubbles into your epoxy on purpose? Ultimately, when you apply it properly and you use a quality finish like Next Level, it thins out just fine and those bubbles disappear. So this will be 3 cc's for the third time. So now we have 9 cc's of finish in there of each part. Way more than I'll need, but it's all good. So you can see that there. I'm just gonna mix it up, stir it up. You see it get milky. And then it'll start to clear out. And what I do is I usually take my bubble buster or a little bit of flame, put it over top of that flame, and just lightly heat it. And that's all we need to do. All right, so this is all I do to any finish. And I've always done it with every finish. Back from my original days when I started out 20 years ago, actually 24 years ago now, using the original Flex Coat. I've always just lightly warmed my finish. Just makes it easier to mix. That's it though, that's all I do. A couple times, a few inches above the flame, that's it. For those who like a real super thin finish, you can add a few drops of acetone, and that thins it out a whole lot as well. Just personal preference. I personally use it as is. I've never really used acetone when rod building, but a lot of builders do. And come to my surprise, when we came out with this and started sending it out to do samples, those were some of the first questions we got from some of the most well-known names in the industry. Can you use acetone? Can you thin it? I said, yeah, sure. Do you thin your current epoxy? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So some of them thin it way further than I ever thought you would or you could. But it's all personal preference. Personally, I use it as is, as I've done with every epoxy. All right, so you can see that there's mixed thoroughly. I don't use a timer. I don't use an epoxy mixer. I just use my hand, mix it thoroughly, and I just go by look. I don't see any more swirls in there. I pick the brush up, down, stir it around, and it's good to go. And you can see there are plenty of bubbles in there because I was mixing like a madman. Not a worry. You can see they're coming to the surface already. They'll pop on their own. And for those that don't, we'll just blast it with the torch a little bit and they'll come off the top. And those that don't will pop when I apply it on the thin coat on the rod blank. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and throw down black. Black shows everything, right? As you know, if you ever have dust on your black suit or dandruff or whatever, all those commercials show everything on black. Okay, that's because black shows everything. So I'm gonna show you here, throw down a wrap of black thread. And then we will epoxy right over it. Okay. Tighten this. A little gap in there, no big deal. There you go. I'm a huge fan of Fuji thread, as you can tell. Got plenty of it here. All the brights, right? I love bright wraps. And I love dark wraps too. One of my favorite wraps is all black, believe it or not. That was one of my biggest sellers back when I had KB Custom Rods, a rod building company. That's how I paid the bills through college. One of my biggest customers was a rod shop in Miami, and they always wanted all black rods. And I thought, man, the first one I built one was, man, this is so simple, so silly. You can build a custom rod with any colors you want. Why go all black? Well, it looks like a sheet of glass. It's absolutely beautiful. So a little bit of gap there. Fill that out. All right, so I'll show you how we lay this down real quick. Quick and easy. See the bubbles that have come to the surface there? Typically we'll take this and pour it into a epoxy dish. This thins out your surface area and it helps it give you a longer pot life. Normally you pour the whole thing in there, but because I'm going to be pouring this in other cups for our marbling, let me go ahead and leave it right here. You can look at that in there. You can see the bubbles coming up and popping. Pretty cool. And then if you really want to see them pop, or you're ready to wrap and you're worried about bubbles in there, just take your torch, just like that. Gone, right? So I don't get too worried about it. I'm just showing you the effect. Ultimately, when we put it on, they're gonna come out. Okay, so take our brush. Actually, I see a little fuzzy here on my wrap. Real quick, shoot that. I like to keep things simple, quick, and easy. Like most of you, super busy, my time is limited, so I try not to get too intricate and worry about details. I like to just move, build my rod so I can go fishing. Okay, so load my brush up. You can see this stuff just flows like a dream. And for those of you who like to hold an edge and make it really crisp and clean on the ends of your wraps, you can see how clean that edge is, and it's gonna stay that way. It's not gonna sag and drip and drop, and you have to come back and clean it with a cloth. You can if you want to, but it's gonna stay put wherever you leave it. I was talking to a good friend and rod builder who comes in the shop often, and he was just raving about how well Next Level holds an edge. And I didn't think many people were as crazy about that as I am, but it makes sense. Every guide has at least one edge, right? One on the bottom side of the guide, and then you have the other end where the guide ends, or if it's double foot, you have a second foot. Well, where those edges are, you want your finish to hold that edge. And I'm gonna create an edge right here. Now there's been no time to dry, no time to sit there and level out, and that's already pretty level. That is super level. And a lot of builders will not apply the way I just did. They want to apply lengthwise, and you absolutely can. But a lot of builders do that just because their current finishes don't level properly. If you apply it in rings like that, you can do it either way, and Next Level is going to level out. That's it. I mean, you can see I didn't do anything to get bubbles out. I have not touched this. There's no fancy editing. We didn't do anything right here. You can see I just put this on 3 seconds ago, and all the bubbles that I can tell, I don't see any. I mean, it's literally a sheet of glass, right? And it's gonna level out as we put it on the dryer. It's gonna flow and level out even more so than it is right now. If you wanted to, you can give it a little bit of heat. Don't have to, but a lot of builders, dock ski included, asked, hey, how well does Next Level do with heat? Because there are a lot of finishes out there that do not like heat. Next Level does just fine. Not a problem at all. You can look at this. If you want to, come back and do a second coat. If you want to, a third coat. Ultimately, you can go fishing. You know, this rod is ready to wrap. I can see here I didn't bring my epoxy far enough on the edge, and come back and make that edge. There you go. That'll level out. So, Next Level Finish. Doc Ski, Mark Krause, a bunch of other original builders have been testing it for 2 years now. They've been testing it as long as I've been testing this exact formula. There's no incentive for them to get behind this product. I was absolutely humbled beyond belief with their excitement when they tested it. It really is just a next level finish. It's a true, if you're looking for the best protection for your rod builds, right? This is it. Some people say, oh, well, it's thicker than others, or oh, it's different when you're applying it. Everything is different, right? But like all things in life, once you get used to it, it's easy. And if your goal is to have the best finish on your fishing rod, this is it, in our opinion. It just, the tests show it. The experience shows it from all the original rod builders who have been testing it for 2 years. There's no smoke and mirrors here. This isn't just because it's our formula. Ultimately, every rod deserves a next level finished, and hence the name, right? Just amazing stuff.